菜根谭
Tending the roots of wisdom.
337落叶韵芽，生机含沙。
337. Falling leaves harbor buds. Death harbor a hint of vitality.
菜根谭原文：草木才零落，便露萌影于根底，时序虽凝寒，终回阳气于飞灰。肃杀之中，生生之意常为之生，即是可以见天地之心。
白话文注解：花草树木刚刚凋谢，根部就已经冒出新芽。节气虽然是肃杀的寒冬，但回春的阳气将在飞灰的日子到来。当万物到了飘零枯萎季节，暗中却藏着使其绵延不绝的蓬勃生机。从这种生生不息中，可以看出天地之仁慈好生之德。
337-1. As flowers, plants, and trees wither, new buds emerge from their roots. Even in the cold grip of winter, the revitalizing warmth of spring is approaching. When everything seems to be in decline, there lies hidden the persistent vitality that ensures their continuous growth. From this unceasing cycle, we can perceive the benevolent and nurturing qualities of the universe. Translated by Bayandefu.
337-2. As plants decay, new buds appear at their roots. In the cold of winter, warmth is nevertheless preserved in the ashes of reeds. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 337-3. When vegetation withers and dies, new shoots appear in the place it used to be. Even when the winter season comes around, everything outside becomes cold, but the warm weather will return when the reed ashes move about in the air. When the myriad things are locked in dreariness, signs of unceasing growth are everywhere in evidence. From this we can perceive nature's love of life. Translated by Paul White.
337-4. As flowers, plants, and trees wither, new buds are already sprouting at their roots. Though the season may be the cold winter of chilling sternness, the revitalizing warmth of spring will arrive in the days of scattered ashes. When all things seem to be in a season of decline and decay, there is an underlying, continuous vitality that sustains them. From this ceaseless cycle of life, one can perceive the benevolence and the virtue of the kindness inherent in the cosmos. Translated by Wen Lin.
338雨后观山，静夜听钟。
338. After the rain, observe the mountains. In the quiet night, listen to the bells.
菜根谭原文：雨余观山色，景色便觉新颜；夜静听钟声，音响尤为清悦。
白话文注解：雨后观赏山川景色，就会觉得另有一番清新气象；静夜听钟声，就会觉得音质特别清脆悠扬。
338-1. After the rain, when observing the landscape of mountains and rivers, one will sense a renewed and refreshing atmosphere. During a quiet night, listening to the sound of bells, one will notice a particularly clear and melodious tone. Translated by Bayandefu.
338-2. When you view mountains after the rain, the scene is fresh and alluring. When you listen to the temple bell at night, the sound is particularly clear and far-reaching. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 338-3. View mountain scenery after a shower of rain, and you will find that it looks especially beautiful. Listen to the sound of a bell tolling in the dead of night, and you will find that it sounds exceptionally clear. Translated by Paul White.
338-4. After rain, when observing the landscapes of mountains and rivers, one will feel a particularly fresh atmosphere. In the quiet night, listening to the tolling of a bell, the sound will be perceived as exceptionally clear and melodious. Translated by Wen Lin.
339雪夜读书，登高心旷。
339. Reading on a snowy night, ascending to heights, the mind feels expansive.
菜根谭原文：登高使人心旷，临流使人意远；读书于雨雪之夜，使人神清；书笑于秋馥之巅，使人性满。
白话文注解：登高远望可以令人心旷神怡，观赏流水体会意境悠远， 在雨雪之夜读书可以使人神清气爽，在山顶之上朗声呼啸，可以让人兴奋豪迈。
339-1. Climbing high and looking into the distance can bring a sense of expansiveness and joy to the heart. Observing flowing water can evoke a distant artistic conception. Reading a book on a rainy or snowy night can clear the mind and refresh the spirit. Standing atop a mountain peak and shouting loudly can make one feel excited and exuberant. Translated by Bayandefu.
339-2. Ascending mountains expands the mind, lingering by flowing water extends the mind, reading on snowy or rainy nights clarifies the mind, singing on top of hills invigorates the senses. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 339-3. Ascending a lofty peak helps to broaden one's mental outlook, contemplating a rushing stream helps one's thoughts to wander afar. Reading a book on a snowy night helps to refresh the spirit, facing heaven and calling out from the summit of a mountain fills a man with vigor. Translated by Paul White.
339-4. Ascending to great heights for a distant view can bring a sense of expansiveness and joy to the heart. Observing flowing water allows for an appreciation of a distant and profound artistic conception. Reading a book on a rainy or snowy night can refresh and invigorate the spirit. Standing atop a mountain peak and letting out a hearty roar can evoke excitement and a sense of grandeur. Translated by Wen Lin.
340. 万中一发，存乎一心。
340. A myriad of bells, yet all originate from one mind.
菜根谭原文：心旷则万中如瓦否，心爱则一发似车轮。
白话文注解：心胸宽阔的人是万贯家财如平常瓦罐，心胸狭隘的人，即使是头发丝般的微粒，也会看得比车轮大。
340-1. A person with a broad mind views immense wealth as ordinary clay pots. A person with a narrow mind, even a tiny profit as thin as a hair strand, appears larger than a wagon wheel. Translated by Bayandefu.
340-2. For the broad-minded, a thousandfold emolument is but an earthen pot. For the narrow-minded, a single hair is as big as a cartwheel. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 340-3. To a person with a magnanimous heart, a lucrative salary is worth no more than a heap of broken crockery. But to a narrow-minded person, something as petty as a hair seems to be as big as a cartwheel. Translated by Paul White.
340-4. A person with a broad mind views a fortune of 1,000,000 as common as a regular clay pot. On the other hand, a narrow-minded person, even a tiny profit as fine as a hair, appears larger to them than a wagon wheel. Translated by Wen Lin.
341. 以我转物，物无异我。
341. By transforming myself, I am not enslaved by external circumstances.
菜根谭原文：无风月花柳不成造化，无情欲事好不成心体。只以我转物，不以物易我，则事欲莫非天机，陈情即是礼敬矣。
白话文注解：大地如果没有清风明月和花草树木，就不成大自然；人如果没有感情欲望和生活嗜好，就不是人类。关键是要以自己支配万物，绝对不可让物来奴役自己。如此，嗜好欲望也就成了自然的天赐，世俗情欲也就成了砥砺前行的理想境界。
341-1. Without the clear wind, bright moon, and flowers and trees, the earth wouldn't be a complete natural world. Similarly, without emotions, desires, and hobbies, a person wouldn't be truly human. The key is to be the master of all things, never letting them enslave you. In this way, desires and hobbies become natural blessings, and worldly passions become the ideal realm for refining oneself. Translated by Bayandefu.
341-2. Without wind, moon, flowers, and willows, there is no nature. Without feelings and desires, there is no mind-body. But only when I am in control of material things, and material things do not control me, can the mundane world become the realm of principle. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 341-3. Just as nature cannot exist without the wind, the moon, flowers and willows, neither can a body, which has spirit, exist without emotions, desires, addictions and predilections. But it is only when you control external things and are not controlled by them that your addictions will all be inspired by heaven and your worldly desires be governed by its principles. Translated by Paul White.
341-4. If the earth lacks clear winds, bright moons, and flowers, plants, and trees, it cannot be considered nature. Similarly, if humans lack emotions, desires, and life interests, they wouldn't be human. The key is to master all things and never let external forces enslave oneself. In doing so, desires and interests become natural gifts, and worldly passions become an ideal realm for self-improvement. Translated by Wen Lin.
342. 就身了身，以物复物。
342. Merge with the self, let go of the self. Engage with things, and let go of things.
菜根谭原文：就一身了一身者，方能以万物复万物；还天下于天下者，方能出世间于世间。
白话文注解：能自我觉悟、参透人生的人，才能驾驭万物，使他们各尽其用；能把天下还给天下万民的人，才能做到身处世俗而精神早已超越。
342-1. Those who have self-awareness and insight into life can master all things and make them fulfill their respective roles. Those who can relinquish the world to the people can truly transcend the worldly realm while still being present within it. Translated by Bayan Defu.
342-2. Only those who understand themselves can treat the myriad things according to their myriad natures. Only those who let go of the world can be delivered from the world while in the world. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 342-3. It is only when a person thoroughly understands himself that he can let the myriad things develop in accordance with their own natures. It is only when a person returns the world to the people can he leave behind the vulgar environment and enter the Buddhist paradise. Translated by Paul White.
342-4. Those who can self-awaken and comprehend life are capable of harnessing all things to their fullest potential. Those who can return the world to the people are able to exist in the mundane world while their spirits have long transcended it. Translated by Wen Lin.
343. 不可徒劳，不能太闲。
343. Don't work in vain, and avoid being too idle.
菜根谭原文：人生太闲，则别念切生；太忙，则真性不见。故是君子，不可不报身心之忧，亦不可不担风月之趣。
白话文注解：一个人若是成天太闲，所有杂念就会暗暗滋生；若是成天劳碌，又会使人丧失真性情。所以，一个聪明人不能不为身心健康着想，做到松弛有度，不使身心过度疲劳，得风月之趣的同时，又要注意不可终日沉迷。
343-1. If a person has too much idle time, various distracting thoughts will quietly emerge. On the other hand, if they toil excessively, they may lose their true nature. Therefore, a wise individual must consider their physical and mental well-being. They should find a balance between relaxation and not overworking themselves. While enjoying leisure, they should also be cautious not to become absorbed in it all day long. Translated by Bayan Defu.
343-2. In life, too much leisure produces extraneous thoughts, and too much work keeps you from your true nature. Thus you cannot completely ignore worrying about your own welfare, at the same time you should not completely shun the pleasures of leisure. Translated by Robert Aitken Daniel W. Wyckoff. 343-3. If life is too leisurely, extraneous notions cannot help but spring up and multiply. If you are too busy, you will lose your natural essence. Therefore, it is impossible for a noble-minded person not to worry about things that threaten his body and mind. Likewise, it is impossible for him not to appreciate the mystery of nature. Translated by Paul White.
343-4. If a person is idle all day, various distracting thoughts will silently grow. On the other hand, if one is busy all day, they may lose their true nature. Therefore, a wise person must consider their physical and mental well-being, achieving a balanced relaxation without exhausting themselves excessively. While enjoying the pleasures of life, they should also be mindful not to become overly immersed in them. Translated by Wen Lin.
344. 处处真境，物物真机。
344. In every situation, there is true reality. In every object, there is genuine potential.
菜根谭原文：人心多从，动处是真。若一念不生，诚然静坐，云兴而悠然共事，雨滴而冷然俱清，鸟啼而欣然有会，花落而萧然自得。何地非真境？何物无真机？
白话文注解：人的心灵多半是由于浮躁，才失去纯真本性。假如任何杂念都不产生，只是悠然静坐，看云起云消，雨点的滴落会带给你心灵洗涤而变清爽的感觉，听到鸟语呢喃亲切的喜悦会油然而生，看到花朵的飘落会升起潇洒的感觉。如此这般，哪一处地方不是真境？哪一件事物不含真机呢？
344-1. Most of the time, people's minds lose their innate purity due to restlessness. If one can eliminate all distracting thoughts and simply sit in tranquil contemplation, observing the fleeting clouds and the falling raindrops, their soul may be cleansed and refreshed. The sound of birdsong will bring a warm delight, and witnessing the petals of a flower gently drifting down may evoke a sense of carefree elegance. In this way, every place becomes a true realm, and every object carries the essence of reality. Translated by Bayan Defu.
344-2. Many times, when your mind is agitated, you will lose awareness of your true nature. If you don't allow the birth of a single thought, you can sit in complete peace, watching and traveling with the clouds, feeling purified by the passing rain, finding pleasant awareness on hearing the birds, and understanding yourself with falling petals. Where will you not find truth? Where will it not function? Translated by Robert A. 344-3. Men's hearts often lose their original pure essence because of restlessness. If, divested of all distractions, you can sit in complete silence and watch the clouds rise and float by, your heart will become carefree and float afar with them. Watching the raindrops, you will have an acute sensation of your heart becoming refreshed and renewed. Listening to the songs of the birds, you will find your heart becoming refreshingly enlightened. Gazing on the falling flowers, you will experience a beautiful and calm feeling as your heart attains self-composure. And so, what place cannot become a paradise? What thing is devoid of vitality? Translated by Paul White.
344-4. Most often, the human soul loses its innocence due to restlessness. If no distracting thoughts arise and one simply sits in serene contemplation, observing the rise and disappearance of clouds or the gentle fall of raindrops, can bring a refreshing feeling to the soul. Hearing the delightful chirping of birds can evoke a warm joy, and witnessing the graceful descent of flower petals can create a sense of ease. In this way, every place becomes a true realm, and everything contains a genuine essence. Translated by Wen Lin.